And welcome. It's good to have you all here and all of those that are watching on video. There's a message to be had here, and all you have to do is to get one single point, and you've had a successful day. We're here, of course, on Christmas Day, and on that day it is particularly special for a very large portion of the world, because we're not just celebrating the birth of Christ, but we're also here to celebrate and to participate in what Christ and his birth and his life are all about. Because there are elements of this that are here and significant to each of us. It's easy to look at this and say, wow, it's a wonderful day, and it is. And by the way, this is the day the Lord hath made. And if you live in Palm Springs or around here, what a day it is. We live in this beautiful valley surrounded by mountains that are covered by snow today. That's all incredible, and individually, we didn't have anything to do with it. But the good news is that doesn't leave us powerful, but we are, through Christ, this thing called Christ consciousness. That is a power that encompasses all that is, that encompasses everything that's been created, will be created, has been said, or will be said. We can participate in that. We are part of that. What's so significant about that? You can look at this and see, look around and say, wow, I am so insignificant. I'm just a blip on the screen that's being buffeted around the universe, and I have no power at all. But because in this teaching we believe in the connection with the God consciousness, which is Christ consciousness, we have available to us the power of the universe to create and recreate in our own lives. And each of us takes a little different tact, a little different way we want to go. And isn't that wonderful? We get to choose. We get to choose that element of our own consciousness which allows us to take the creativity of the universe and make it our own. We're not an effect, we're a cause if we choose to be so. And if we choose not to be a cause, what have we done? We've made a choice. In any way, it all comes out the same way. That we have an opportunity to make things different. That we are not just an effect. And that Christ consciousness, when you look at it, this creative power, the Son of God in the Christian tradition, chose to come to us in a very humble way. In the middle of winter, and it may not have been the middle of winter, but it was a tough time of year in the Middle East, no matter when you're there. To a little town called Bethlehem. And that's just a little dusty backwater. It's not much different today. The thing that makes it great today is because it is the place where Jesus was born. But in terms of an auspicious time or town, he didn't pick that because it's irrelevant, right? When we're talking about consciousness, we're not talking about a place. We're not talking about a thing. We're talking about something that far surpasses that. And that makes a point of it, that the town, the location is not relevant. So in this, but what an impact he made. Coming to this little dusty backwater town, and all of a sudden he just starts talking what? The truth. The truth. And it's all about a connection to truth, no matter what you're doing, no matter how mundane it seems, nor how spiritual it may seem. It's all a connection to truth. We start out in our teaching with an affirmation that God is all there is. If God is all there is, what does that include? It includes you and you and you and everyone in this room and me. Not a bad connection, is it? That connection empowers us to take our own individuality and step forward into this day, into this world, and make a difference. And sometimes the differences that we make appear to be quite insignificant. But they can be the key to all kinds of incredible events. It kind of reminds me of the Shakespeare line, for want of a nail, the shoe was lost. For want of a shoe, the horse was lost. For want of a horse, The rider was lost. For rod of the rider, which was the king, the kingdom was lost. All for the want of a nail. Very poetic and a very famous Shakespearean effort, but the point is a universal one. The point is a universal one of the connectivity of everything. Everything is connected to everything else. I know when Ernest Holmes was asked once, "Are you Christian?" And of course we are. And his response was, "Yes, Christian and more." We don't get into this concept of separation. If we get into this division and separation, who are we separating? We're separating ourselves. That isn't separating anybody else away from us. That's separating us away from them. How do we win in that one? Not too much, I don't think. And even in all if you look at the world's religion, the three major world religions, they all believe in the same God. We go incorporate even a step further. All the divisions and all the things that are fought about in the name of religion are just absolutely what? Not the truth. And when you look in the final analysis, what everybody's after, people are looking to acquire and achieve and do all these things that satisfy them on a number of different levels. And when they get there, what do they have? Usually a sense of emptiness, because they do not have the sense of connectivity that makes us all part of one universal being. And the beauty of the thing from our point of view, we get to retain our individuality and still incorporate with everybody else. Where do you ultimately get your satisfaction? It's nice to take home a nice paycheck and have all the stuff, but I've never seen more unhappy people in the world than people with lots of stuff. And by the way, I'm not against stuff. I've got enough of it. And it's just fine, but it's never going to make you happy. It's never going to make you happy, because it separates you from. If I separate myself from you, I separate myself from God. Who's the loser in that one? Who's the loser in that one? So I think on this particular day, we do have the opportunity to show the appreciation for the birth of Christ, to bring about a unity. It's not totally achieved yet, not because Christ didn't do his part. Christ did his part. The important thing now is to understand that each of us now get to do our part. And frequently it's going to involve some very small thing. It's not going to be something necessarily earth-shattering. I think that when we talk about Christ, at the bottom you will find faith. Not from reason, but from the God consciousness that dwells within us. That's where we have to go. That's our power. That's the thing that keeps us going, and on and on and on in the choices things we do. And how do we get there? The choices we make. And how do these choices come about? They come about based upon what we think. What we think influences what we say. It influences what we do. It has meaning, it has power. And I can remember thinking, because I was raised with a very strong left-brain educational tradition up through the postgraduate level, and understood about how this and that and everything impacted everything else, but I didn't get the real essence of it. You can get an awful lot of information and get nothing, because the real power is in the unseen, isn't it? Because it's a spiritual power. It's a spiritual power which we're connected to and which we can use or misuse. And that's the dilemma that we find so much in the world, and is the misuse of the spiritual power that's available to all of us. How does that come about? That comes about through ignorance and fear, primarily fear. We in this room, and I'm watching this, we have nothing to fear. We have an affirmation in this teaching that we use all the time. I am guided and protected when? Always. I am guided and protected always. Now, if you're not quite there, say it anyway. I am guided and protected always. I just keep saying it. Little by little, little by slow, somebody, a friend of mine says sometimes, little by slow, this stuff starts to sink in. But if you're here, if you're watching this on video, you're on the path. We get there an inch at a time, but guess where we live 100%? We live 100% in this very moment. There's no place else you can be, and there's nothing more you can do than what you're doing right here and right now. Which brings to mind really the basic concept, we must stay in the moment. By the way, but do it with ease. How do you do it with ease? You just do it with ease. You're going to have lots of moments if you make a misstep to recover from it. If you make a mistake, it's never a mistake, it's simply a learning lesson. And it all ultimately comes down, once we're connected to everything else, then we're in love with everything else. It's like being connected to your right hand. I mean, you don't think you're being in love with your right hand, but it's part of your body and it's part of who you are. So the real concept goes much broader than that, much broader than just who I am individually. It's the connectiveness that really makes life. And when you look at the things that have truly made you happy in life, they're very rarely for any long period of time the stuff. Yes, I got the degrees. Yes, I got the jobs. Yes, I did. That's all part. But what kind of a part is it? It's a moment by moment by moment by moment by moment. Connection to the infinite. The infinite, which is the creative force combining all that is, all that we see, all that we don't see. It's all part of the same thing. And it's our fear that we can't understand or absolutely be in touch with every bit of that that makes us want to run from it. And when we do that, we're really shortchanging ourselves in many, many ways. So the important thing, I think, is that when we decide what we're going to do with our little piece of the pie, is to think about our thinking. Because what do we say in this teaching? Mind creates, right? Well, my mind's connected with a greater mind and the collective mind and all the rest of it, but I got to start with the little instrument I'm dealing with. And I remember being raised as a good Catholic boy, that we were taught that you could sin in thought, word, and deed. Now, and I just kind of wasn't so sure about all that, but we look at things differently in science of mind. Sin just means an error, a mistake, right? Mistake is, life is what? Now and then it's gone, now and then it's gone, now and then it's gone. The mistake is now and then it's gone. Retaining, of course, the lesson. I don't want to have to do stupid things twice if I can avoid it. That's an option. So we need to stay in touch with the moment. Don't dwell on it, by the way. Being in touch with the moment might be to sit there looking at the sunset, letting your mind spin in neutral. Did you think how powerful that moment could be in terms of connecting you with a higher power, with the creative source? When you see that kind of thing, when you look at this mountain out here this morning, if you can't get a God connection, you're not looking carefully enough. So what's the lesson there? Pay attention. Go back and why am I looking at that and I've still got this kind of, I don't feel so hot. It's because I'm focusing on some negative aspect that's already history. I don't need to go there. I don't need to be there. I do not need to remain there. That's a choice. But I'm not going to make a change in how I'm doing business if I don't take a look at it and acknowledge it. So much of life, I look at many of the periods that look very productive in my life, where I accomplished stuff. You know, you put it on walls. And I was barely present. I was all about this ticket, that position, all the rest of it. And once you got them, what did you have? Not too much in my case. And when I studied this stuff, because I was a liberal arts kind of a guy before I got into a lot of other things, what's really there? Life is an endless search. It's an endless journey back to the source. And we're here to do it with joy. Enjoying really each and every moment of it. And even noticing the fact this is not my day to enjoy it. I want to sit there and whine. This is my whine day. And you can have a wine day any day you want, but you get to live with the consequences of it. And by the way, I do have wine days, but they're not like they used to be. I mean, you used to be a time when you could have a wine week, but now it's so uncomfortable. We want to avoid pain, right? But one of the ways to avoid it is to let go of the stuff that we're doing that does not serve us, and not serving us does not allow us to serve the greater good. And you'll get your joy from serving the greater good. You'll get your greater joy from being connected with other people. There's a great affirmation. It's been said by more than one party. All we want is to love and be loved. All we want is to love and be loved. Think of the moments you've felt really wonderful. They're typically in very simple kind of surroundings, typically involved in just a connection with individuals that we want to be with. Isn't that powerful? We didn't have to pay a nickel for it except to pay attention to our lives, what we're thinking and what we're doing. Because first comes the thought and then comes the thing. And when I see my thoughts are not on track, neither are the things that I'm doing. And if nothing else, I'm going to sit there and look just terrific and be miserable. I don't think my creative connection wants me to be miserable. Do you? That's not who we are. That's not God within us. That's not living up to our potential. That's not opening up to avenues that we never even thought about. But it can be changed. It can come true. It can be yours. It can be true and changed and yours right here and right now. Because this is it, folks. This is it. It's not that it's an end. It's always a beginning. It's always a beginning. But if we don't start with this is it as a beginning, where are we going to be? We're going to be flatlining, and flatlining is just another form of misery. We're not going to do that. Because we are connected with a force, a power greater than ourselves. We are a part of that power greater than ourselves. We participate in it. We intend to utilize it in a way that is useful to ourselves and others. And when do you ever feel, don't you feel best when you actually help somebody else? Isn't that really when you feel good? And when if you've been in a position, and many people in this room and in this teaching have been in a position where they've had all the stuff and they've been miserable. And then they've not had the stuff and they felt good. Why? Because that God within is connecting with the God within each of you. Making a better life for you, making a better life for each of us, and hopefully aiming in the direction of a better world for those that we touch. I love the fact I've had an opportunity to speak here today. I didn't get enough time. We have a timekeeper back here that there's a hook they used to have in the old days in vaudeville, but they're not doing a hook on me, but I do know that I have to, at this point, bring this to an end and to appreciate you for being here today and being a part of this. And I'll look forward, you're not through with me. I'm probably going to pop up in some arena that you're not expecting. And for that, I am grateful. God bless and enjoy this wonderful Christmas Day.
Revivals, that's the venue. We always run into each other at revivals. Thank you so much. Thank you. Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Let your heart be light. From now on, our troubles will be out of sight. The tender Some say love, it is the razor that leads your soul to bleed. Some say love, it is a hunger, an endless aching need. I say love, it is